What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another video on that FPL. Still haven't redone it because I just can't think of a name at the moment. But this is our first edition of that transfer show. I am joined by Rod. Today we're going to be going through some of the biggest talking points in the transfer window so far, some done deals, some rumours and stuff like that. We're going to give you our kind of views on the transfers, where we think it's a good move for the player and the club, and we're going to give you how likely we think it is to happen. But how are you doing anyway, Rod? You good?
I'm good, mate. We are the Fabrizio Romano of YouTube.
Basically, yeah. I don't know. We have to have something opposite of here we go, but we don't go. But yeah, so I guess we'll just get straight into it, Rod. As always, guys, if you do enjoy the video, please leave a comment down below letting us know which transfer you're looking forward to the most this summer. And make sure you check out some of the other content on the channel if you haven't seen it so far. We did a Champions League final review the other day. Be sure to go check it out. And let's get straight into it, Rod. We're going to kick things off with a huge transfer, Rod. Nothing is concrete yet, but there's a lot of talk around PSG looking to try and sell Neymar on. Now, Neymar has supposedly said he would like to stay at the club, but PSG would like to get him off their wage bill and get in a juicier fee for him. In world football, there aren't too many clubs who are going to be able to afford a player of his ability and his wages. So the one which I've seen which has been linked to him is Chelsea. It's a weird one, Rod, but PSG are looking to sell him. Chelsea, potentially with the new owner, can he make a big statement, come in here and get Neymar? First of all, I want to get your opinion on how good would it be to see Neymar in the Premier League?
As a football fan, mate, it'd be incredible to see him in the Premier League, amongst with the best. From a realism point of view, I don't think he goes anywhere near Chelsea. I think the owner said they were going to come in and spend 200 million. I think Neymar, it'd cost at least 80, I imagine.
Yeah.
I don't really think he fits the structure of them, what they want to do moving forward. I can't see it happening. It's a nice rumour, but it'd be amazing to see him in the Premier League, and I don't even want to think about if he becomes an FPL option. But
oh, mate, I don't even know if he would be like the one you'd want.
There's so much choice, that's what I'm saying. That's why I don't really want to think about it. But it's a very interesting rumour. That's actually I haven't really heard about it much, but I think there's not many clubs that could actually do that in the Premier League,
yes.
bar Chelsea and maybe Man United.
Well, I was thinking about it, and I was like, which clubs in world football can really go after a Neymar? You think about Barcelona, they don't have the fees right now. You look at Real Madrid, they supposedly still wanted Mbappe, but they couldn't get him, and they are looking to spend money elsewhere, looking at bringing in Tchouaméni. I think in the Premier League, you look at United, is Ten Hag really going to go near him when he's looking to rebuild the team and maybe disrupt the structure of the club? City just brought in Erling Haaland, so it's very unlikely. So Chelsea are the only ones who are probably possible, and it's really going to be dependent on how this new owner sort of runs the club, because I think if Abramovich was there, this one would probably go ahead, because I think Chelsea have got a lot of players leaving the club on the free this season, so they're going to have the wage bill kind of open up for them. Yes, they're going to have to bring in replacements, but you know what Chelsea are like, they can go and get some pretty cheap deals done pretty quickly. I don't know if it's as much as the most unrealistic transfer. For me, I've seen this one around online. I think it's probably more probable that it doesn't happen, but if PSG really are looking to offload Neymar, I think Chelsea is probably the only destination which is really realistic.
Yeah, I've done a bit of research just now, and obviously he wants to stay at PSG. He's contracted there till 2025, and you did make a good point. I think the only club probably in the Premier League, that is, who would go for him are Chelsea. Be a big statement if they do, but I don't really think he fits into the Tuchel style of play, to be completely honest.
Why do you think that, personally? Because I think he would bring something which Chelsea are missing. I think they really miss that sort of creativity at times in the final third. They do, obviously, the front three this season, they've gotten goals, but I think defensively they've been pretty decent all round this year, and it's just the offense which hasn't been ticking. I think Neymar could definitely offer something up front for a team like a Chelsea.
I think Chelsea, they've Christensen is potentially outgoing. Looks like he's pretty much outgoing. If Barca can sort out their transfer
we'll
issue.
be talking Barca in a bit.
Obviously Rudiger, so they need to sort out their defence. I think going forward, I think attacking, they need to sort out less so. But regardless, I can't see it happening, but if it did happen, then this Premier League just got a whole lot spicier.
Yeah, so what's your probability, Rod? We're going to be doing percentage for each of these guys. So what is your percentage on Neymar to Chelsea?
25%.
25%. I'm going to go with a 35% for me, because I do think, I was just writing it down, I do think there's something in this one, just because if PSG are really truly looking to sell, I think they might drop the value of him quite a bit just because of how much his wages are. So it's definitely an interesting one, but we'll move on to transfer number 2, Rod. We'll stay with Chelsea, but this time it's an outgoing. Romelu Lukaku looks to be on his way back to Inter Milan. I'm pretty sure him and Inter have kind of figured it out. However, Inter are, in a position where they aren't really a buying club at the moment. They're more of a selling club. It's looking like they might be willing to let Bastoni walk out the door if they can get a right fee for him. I don't know what the deal would look like with Chelsea, whether it'd be a loan with instalments of money to Chelsea. But I think Lukaku back to Inter is a bit of a weird one. Obviously, he hinted at it last season, very early into his spell at Chelsea, that he was unhappy and he wanted to go back home to Italy. Where do you sit on this sort of transfer, Rod?
Yeah, I've also done a bit of research on this, and there have been chats. Obviously, he did an interview just after Christmas or before Christmas. I don't think Inter will go anywhere near what Chelsea will be valuing him at. We've seen he hasn't worked at Chelsea this year, but I mean, he's going to cost a lot of money, and Inter financially, I don't think they're in that position, hence why they're looking, obviously, they need outgoings before they can have any ingoings. I think that's a big reason why Conte left after doing so well. We thought, me and you, we chatted at the start of the season, we thought it was going to be a match made in heaven. We saw the Arsenal-Chelsea game where Lukaku worked so well, and we thought he's going to get 20 goals, etc. That did not happen to be the case. His attitude hasn't been great, and we've seen it hasn't really worked. For me, there's still a player in there, but you have to play to his strengths. And Inter probably want him back. By the sounds of it, what Lukaku said, he really wants to go back to Milan, and I don't blame him. Beautiful city, amazing culture, atmosphere, etc. But they're going to be wanting a lot of money. It's going to be at least 50, 60 million minimum. Inter will go nowhere near that, I think.
I think it'll be somewhere around 50, 40. For me, I do think that, Lukaku hasn't done his best at Chelsea, obviously. That's also down to him and some of his problems. But for me, I think Tuchel's done a bad job at getting some of the best out of some of the players he's got. I think if you look at Flick at Germany, he's done a good job at getting stats and, performance out of Timo Werner. And I think you've looked at Lukaku's career, and when he's played under a manager who's willing to play to his strengths, and keep him happy, he's always done a good job. You look at his record at United, and United fans wanted him gone, but his goal scoring record was really good still. For me, I think this transfer is going to happen, Rod. I'm going to give this one a 75% because I just think it's a match where both teams know what they're getting. I think Chelsea would be willing to cut their losses, bring in some income to maybe go out and spend somewhere else. I don't think Chelsea are probably going to demand the highest fee, and even if they do, I think it will be over, a couple years with instalments for Lukaku. I think it's a deal which is going to happen, and I think it's a deal which probably should happen. I'm a bit disappointed to see Lukaku go after only 1 year. I did want to see him as the main man for a Chelsea for 4 or 5 years. That would have been interesting, but 1 year, one and done. What's your probability on this one, Rob?
So I think they're going to take him on loan, purely from a financial point of view, and then if they do buy him, it's going to be in instalments. It's all about how the new ownership go about it. I'm going to go 60%, even though I've been talking the game about how he's not going to go because of the fee. But if it goes in the structure of a loan and then instalments after, I think 60%, and what a waste of money.
Yeah, there are definitely better ways to spend your money. Think of all Think of all the cocaine and prostitutes you could get for that 80 to 100 million pounds, Rod. That's just crazy.
Exactly, Chelsea.
Yes, but we'll go to Bayern Munich next, who are looking to bring in Sadio Mane from Liverpool. I think his contract's run out now. Is that correct?
Well, end of June is the end, and I think he's come out saying he wants to leave Liverpool, new challenge. Bayern are the favourites. PSG are making a bid, but Bayern look like the favourites. I think personal terms are agreed. Obviously, agent to club. Now it's just all about agreeing a fee. I think Liverpool wanted £42 million for him. They'll probably get 30, 35, which I still think is a good deal. You've got 3 years out of him. Works out about 15 mil, just under a year. There's a very good player there. But yeah, Bayern Munich looks like his likely destination, and I think as a Bayern fan, you'd be quite excited.
Yeah, I think you do as well. I think you look at the sort of attackers you've got in your team. I think Mane brings a new level of that sort of ability to be the first defender in the team, the attacking presser. I think Mane's numbers for Liverpool, if you look back at them, sometimes I haven't rated him, and other times I have. I think he's gone through hot and cold spells at times, potentially, but his stats throughout his career at Liverpool have just been ridiculous. And for me, it's a really interesting one because I'm kind of a bit disappointed because it's going to be weird to see Mane in a different league because he's been in the Premier League now so long. It just doesn't seem right. But I think Bayern Munich is going to be an interesting one because the league's a lot different. I think he's going to be going there to potentially, be part of this new sort of look Bayern Munich team who potentially are going to be losing Lewandowski. There are talks that they want Mane to play alongside Lewandowski, so that would be an interesting one as well. But I think this is more looking at a Bayern side. He's probably looking to go for another Champions League trophy.
Yeah, Lua, I think he insulted the club a couple of days ago, saying they're not a serious club. He looks like he's off, which I'm sure we're going to get onto. But Mane, he's going to be coupled with a load of very good players. Obviously, they're going to want another Champions League trophy. Nagelsmann has been eyeing up. Obviously, they've secured Gravenberch, etc. But it's a big move for Mane. Obviously, he's been in the Premier League for so long. He's gone from Southampton to Liverpool. He's put up some good numbers.
Yeah.
Big loss for Liverpool. Very gutting. It'd be hard to replace him. Obviously, they've got Diaz to come in, but Mane's a very, very good player. And I think as a Bayern fan, you'd be excited, and he's just going to be playing alongside some of the great players in the world.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's obvious why this transfer is more likely to happen. And it's all about the money. I think, why would he look at leaving Liverpool if it wasn't for money? Because realistically, he's at a club right now who are challenging on all levels, especially in Europe, just lost in the Champions League final after another amazing season. This is because Liverpool aren't willing to shell out, ridiculous sums to players. And I think we're going to be in a similar situation next year with Mohamed Salah, Rod. But for me, I think this one is an 85% chance of happening to Bayern Munich. The only reason I put 85 and not like 90, 95 is because I think if PSG came in the race, that would be a possibility as well.
Yeah, I'm with you there, where I also think it's 85, and I think the main driving factor is he says he wants a new challenge. You don't want a new challenge. You're going to go for similar accolades, but at a different club. You want more money, which Liverpool, I respect. At the same time, I can't see why, but they have a firm wage structure. They go about things with a similar way. The owners do it the same with the Red Sox, and it's worked. And to be fair, if it's working, then don't fix it. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
If it's working, don't fix it.
If it's not broken, don't fix it. But they're losing a big player who's been a big part of their success in recent years, and he was probably one of the best players in that final a few days ago. So he's going for money. It's a shame, but unfortunately, that is the football world right now, where players would prefer to play for that extra bag compared to becoming a legend at the club they're at, which he could have easily done at Liverpool.
I feel like Liverpool were prepared for this, and I think they're prepared to lose Salah as well at the end of his contract. I think that's why you saw Luis Diaz come in, and I think with the time he was given, and they kind of pushed Mane towards more of a centre-forward position. I think that just shows that they're comfortable with rebuilding the squad time after time. So that's an interesting one for me.
But at the same time, this transfer does make FPL a lot easier for me next year because Luis Diaz will be in my team from game week 1 because there is really no competition there. So it's made FPL easy, I'll tell you that.
What, Luis Diaz? Really?
100%.
I'm actually really surprised about that because he will not be getting in my team because his end product isn't there. He does have a lot of chances, so, he's probably going to stick away a lot. But I can't wait because I feel like I've got the winning formula next year. Mentally undefeated, son. That's how we keep it. But we'll move on, Rod, to Bayern Munich once again, but this time it's an outgoing. Robert Lewandowski, he's obviously been talking about the club. He wants to go to Barcelona, but Barcelona are going to have to pay a fee because his contract doesn't go out till next summer. So for me, I think this deal's a lot harder because I could see, Bayern Munich just, holding on to him and making it harder and harder for Barca to get him because I don't think they'll be worried because the fee's not going to be that much to the club. Barca will need to get fees for this, and we'll be talking about a couple outgoings potentially for them after this one, Rod. But I think Lewandowski to Barca is actually a bad move in my opinion. I think, yes, instant success, 100%. But I think if you look at the squad right now, you're in a rebuilding phase, and I don't understand why you go out and get an older striker who is, at the very end of his prime. I doubt he's going to be in his prime for the next 4 years, where you could go out and get someone a bit younger. You could maybe build the team around for the future. How do you see it?
Barcelona are in a lot of financial trouble at the moment. A lot of financial trouble. So for me, they might not even be able to sign Christensen. They're not in a position to sign players. They need outgoings first. And their valuable outgoings don't want to leave, obviously. Lewandowski, brilliant player, fantastic striker. I'd say almost a complete striker if he had a bit more pace, but his unbelievable physique, finishing ability and mentality get him through that instead of the pace, which he's very, very good striker. If I didn't realise he was out of contract next summer, meaning they've got an extra year. I mean, obviously similar to Salah. I think he's Bayern. They've got no reason to get rid of him. I think they can. They've got no reason to get rid of him. Obviously, I think he does want to leave. He's made it quite clear, actually. But at the end of the day, the club makes the final decision, not the player. We had it with Kane last year. Obviously, he wanted to leave. The club made the final decision. He stayed, and he's pushed them to get, along with Son, to get Champions League football. So, will we see a similar thing with Lewandowski in terms of what?
I think what we're going to see here is maybe the player power and, how powerful is it right now? Because I think I think this deal could easily happen. I think there's a lot of sellable assets who don't want to leave Barcelona. But I think, push come shove, they probably will leave. And I do see him in a Barcelona shirt. And I think, in terms of his career, it is that team which is, top 3 teams of all time, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and, whoever you want to stick up there with them, Aston Villa. But yeah, for me, I do see him. I think it's his dream move. I think it could happen. But like I said, for me, he's going to have a couple decent seasons there, and then, they're going to probably want to sell him because his wage is too high, and the club is just run like so stupidly. And, I was thinking about like analogies, and I was like, what's the sort of analogy? It's like some girl takes you in with her, she makes you sign this lease, you can stay in the house for another year. And then, for the Barca players, and it's like, oh, Jack, there's a fitter guy, I want to go with him. So can you leave the room now? Well, no, I've signed a lease for 2 years. I'm staying, you know what I mean? It just doesn't, the way they run their club is so backwards, and some of the signings that they're linked with, whether it be Christensen, Marcos Alonso, Azpilicueta, like some of these moves are just backwards to me, Rod.
He turns 34 this summer. Yeah, like you said with Barcelona, it looks like Alonso's going there on a free. Obviously, they're getting Christensen, potentially Lewandowski. I can't understand the inner workings of that club. Similar to Real Madrid, I don't know where all this money comes from, even though they're in a huge amount of debt. This puts me down to why they wanted, obviously, the Super League to make all this money. But, yeah, percentage-wise for Lewandowski going to Barca,
I'm going
40.
I'm going 50. You're going 40. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, man. It's an interesting one. But if Barcelona are to get the money, it is being said that they are willing to sell Gavi and Frankie de Jong. We're going to talk about the Frankie de Jong move. Obviously, he's been linked with United. I think it was a couple of weeks ago now that one of the outlets around Barcelona, who is very credible and reliable, he came out and said the move was 95% done. I think he said the fee was agreed and all that. It was just down to Frankie. Now, Frankie de Jong apparently doesn't want to leave Barcelona. His priority is Champions League football, and for him, Barcelona was his dream club. So it comes down to now that Barcelona want to get rid of him, because I don't understand why, man, because he's a really good talent and all this, and it's just kind of a crazy move once again. But I guess they want to get rid of him so he can have the funds to bring in multiple other players, and he's off the wage bill as well. United are the team who are kind of, I guess, being pushed as the number one team going after him. Apparently Ten Hag has spoke to him, he's tried to convince him, but the move, he doesn't really want to leave. Where do you see this one going, Rod? Because I think it's an interesting one.
First of all, huge red flag. If a player doesn't want to leave to play for you, probably not going to be the right fit. He's happy at Barcelona, which is understandable, one of the greatest clubs of all time. I think their initial asking fee is 85 million euros. They won't get anywhere near that. They know clubs know they're in trouble, so their negotiating teams are going to be on top form trying to get a deal. I don't think he solves United's problems, to be honest. I think he's a very good player, 100%. I don't think he solves their problems. But Ten Hag's been with him before, obviously been with Donny van de Beek, etc. He knows the inner workings of these players. That's what I say it with Barcelona. I don't know what the crack is. They sign these players, then a couple of years later they flog them. Coutinho for 140, 50 million, whatever it was. Sell him a few years later for 17 million. I don't get the inner workings of the club, and I don't blame Frankie de Jong, to be completely honest. If I'm happy where I am, I'm happy where I am, and he doesn't want a new challenge right now, and he's playing at one of the biggest clubs of the world. Who can blame him? So, United, I saw they were in quite strong contact with him this morning. Obviously, there's still a lot to be done. And I think if he does go anywhere, it will be United, but I don't see it being likely. I'm going to go 40% again.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, Rob, because for me, if you're at a club and it's coming out that, they haven't even spoke to you, but it's coming out that they don't want you, they want you gone so they can get money in. For me, I'd feel disrespected and I'd probably want to leave. So it's kind of interesting that he wants to stay in some ways. But yeah, for United, you said it doesn't fix all their problems. I don't think he does fix all their problems at all. I think, there's a lot of work which needs done on the United squad, to make them a team which can challenge once again for European football in general. But for me, I think he's a great player and I'd love him at United in terms of the midfielder that he is. I think he's a player who, he can get on the ball and kind of dictate the pace of a game. And, I think United have really been missing that in midfield for quite some time. Obviously, we're bringing back Donny van de Beek as well. Be interested to see whether, what sort of system we're going to play and, who's going to play. It's a really weird one at the moment, and I'm not too sure, Rod. For me, I'd probably agree with you. I'd probably go lower, actually. I'm going to go 30% for me. I think it's a move which I would love to happen, but I just don't think that he wants it. And despite Ten Hag being there, if he doesn't want it, it's not worth forcing it for me.
If Ten Hag can't convince him, then no one will.
But one man Ten Hag might be able to convince is Timber, the centre-back from Ajax. I can't remember how to say his first name. It's just something. But, he's a very talented centre-back. Apparently, Rod is still very young. Quite short, though. 5'11" for a centre-back in the Premier League isn't, the tallest, I guess you could say. Any thoughts on this sort of transfer at all, Rod, really?
I'm not too familiar with him. I've heard some rumours. Meant to be a good player, young player coming through. Did you say he was a centre-back, yeah?
Yes, mate, yeah. But I think he can play centre-back, right-back, and I think he can go into the midfield, but I could be wrong about that.
I mean, it's always good to have a versatile player, especially who can play multiple different positions. Centre-back, for me, obviously I'm not a United fan. I don't know the inner workings, but I think you're fine at centre back. I mean, I don't know what the crack is with Bailly. Obviously, you've got Lindelof, Varane, Maguire. But if a player can step into that central defensive midfield when he needs to do a job, someone like Callum Chambers for Villa, or if you can do full back, then I mean, it's always great to have a player who's a jack of all trades, really.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we're fine at centre back personally, Rod. Just because Harry Maguire isn't good enough. Varane's injury prone. Bay's never given a chance and he's injury prone. Lindelof, I think he's been decent alongside Varane, but alongside anyone else, just hasn't really looked the part for me. I think we're desperate for a couple centre backs. I think if we get Timber, I'd like to see one more. Probably like to see Eric Bailly go, not because I want to see him go, more because for his career and to give him some game time. Lindelof, I wouldn't mind keeping. Maguire's got to go somehow or another, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, for me, Rod, I think just have that strength and depth at centre back again. To have a player who can, possibly come into the starting 11. We don't have to force him in there, but when he gets his chance, maybe he can prove something. And give him a good run of games. For me, I'd love to see it. This one, Rod, I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with 95%, Rod, because I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I
mean, it seems that you're pretty certain. Obviously, I'm not in the know about United transfers. I don't really know what's going on. But if you've got 95, I'll probably have to go something similar.
We'll give you 90. Yeah, so that's the United transfers done, Rog. But today it was announced that one United player has officially come out and said that he will not be signing a contract extension. Paul Pogba, after joining the club for a record fee, is now set to leave on a free again. How embarrassing. Apparently he's set to leave and join Juventus, Rod. I think I have been watching a bit of Serie A this season because it's been on BT Sport, and some of the people who I follow in the football world are big fans of the Serie A, so I started watching it. For me, it's not the best league to watch, but I have enjoyed watching it, and Juventus have been absolutely mudded all year under Allegri, Rod. What do you kind of think about Pogba moving back to Italy?
Obviously, Lingard is joining him in terms of departing on a free transfer, but I'm sure we'll get onto that shortly. Horrific bit of business. For me, his attitude has always stunk, but he's one of the most gifted, talented midfielders in world football currently. His ability is unquestionable, but it's just his attitude. The only manager that, for me, has managed to get him play in the last few years has been Ole. When he puts him on the wing, he was doing absolutely ridiculous. The start of this year, he was 5 assists in one game.
He's crazy, wasn't it?
He's an incredible footballer, but it's just his mentality in his head's just not there at times, and he's not the player you want around the dressing room. He departed on a free, bought him back for 100 million or so.
I think it was around 90 in the end, but I'm not too sure. But yeah,
and he's departed on a free again. It's a bit of crazy business. Juventus, he classic Paul Pogba fashion. He said he's going to announce his future in his documentary on the 17th of June. Part-time footballer, full-time media star. I mean, there's not really much to say. I think it's just a bit crazy.
Yeah, for me, I'm really disappointed, actually. I remember the day we signed him. I was talking to Danny, who you may have seen on the channel before, and we were hyped, and I was like, we get him now. Look at, we got him until 2022. And back then, I thought we could be mad by then. We could be back. Obviously, we're still not back. We're actually in one of the worst positions we've ever been in. And for me, yes, Paul Pogba has done bad at United, and some of it is down to him, but part of it's down to the club as well. We haven't been able to sustain a challenging, sort of team at United and put the players around him to make him successful. I agree with some of the things you said, like social media, stuff like that. But for me, he is someone you'd want in the changing room. When you see the scenes of him at France, giving that team talk before the final of the World Cup or Euros, I think it was, he is a leader when he wants to be. Like you said, though, in terms of the Premier League, he hasn't showed up. And to be honest, I think you can put some of that down to him just because, he has been hot and cold in terms of performances. One game he'll be nuts. The next he will just be missing in action, I guess you could say. And does he really have the mentality to be in the Premier League when it's such an intense league and every single one of the 38 games matter? I'm not too sure. I'm definitely disappointed to see him go, although I am happy in a way because I think, without having him in the team, it's a lot less conversation going away from the club, because it seemed to be every time there was a United game on Sky, all Graham Souness wanted to talk about was Paul Pogba. But yeah, Rod, to Juventus, I'm going to give this 100%, mate. I think it's 100% happening. The only other team I could see him going to is PSG, and I don't really think they will, because Mbappe is basically the owner now. So yeah, what's your percentage on Juve, mate?
Yeah, you rightly said that Mbappe runs that club. He, like you also just said, that's the only other club he might go to. Juventus looks pretty locked on, but he's a world-class player, and it's a shame to see him leave the league. He won't be missed, in my opinion. I don't like his attitude, don't like him as a personality.
I don't fucking like him.
But from Ten Hag's point of view, that's one less huge ego he has to manage. So I can imagine he's going to be quite happy to see the back of him. So yeah, Juventus, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, weird for me as well, the fact that it is Juventus, because of the fact they are so sort of shit at the moment. And, they're not even close. Well, they are close because you look at AC Milan, who won the Serie A, they were shit. So yeah, it is what it is. But I wasn't actually going to mention it, Rob, but you mentioned it, so we're adding in an extra one. Jesse Lingard, have you heard anything about where he might be heading now that he's a free agent?
Also, yeah, 20 years at the club. There's still a big player in there. He can definitely do bits for the next 3 or 4 years minimum. He's 29, of course, but we've seen football. I mean, Modric is playing the highest order of football at 36 years of age.
Yeah,
so.
If you don't mind me butting in, I think it's kind of crazy in football. I don't know if it's because of our generation growing up on FIFA, where you play career mode. As soon as they hit 30, mate, it was like they were sent into the nursing home and they just reduced in stats so quickly. But for me, it's like, I watch other sports and, boxing and MMA, and these are my favourite sports to me. And you see athletes who, it depends on the division, but you see guys who don't hit their prime until they're 38 or 39. Some of people just, don't hit their level until later in life. And in football, it's much more not the case. And, you tend to see players start to dip in form around the age of 33 to 34. But, it's not... not every player's going to be like that. I think you look at Modric, I think it's a good point. I think he's the player he was the last 5 years? Not at all, but he's still got the attributes which made him special, which was that passing range and his coolness on the ball. You look at Ronaldo at his age, kept in that physical, sort of physique, I guess you could say, to keep up the performances. So yeah, I think you made a good point, Rod. And 29, it's definitely, for any club in the Premier League, would be a good signing. But who have you heard he's been linked with?
So, obviously, just another example here. We've got Thiago Silva, who was an incredible defender last year in the Prem. Anytime he had to play, I thought he was brilliant, and he's 37. He's never had the pace. He's always been a very clever defender. 37, he was still doing bits. So, yeah, when players hit 30, they've still got years in them. This is why I don't so much believe anymore when people are signing 29, 30-year-olds that are signing OAPs. Yes, they're getting older, but, mate, if you coach them right and if you deploy them right, they can play till 34, 35 minimum now if they're a good enough player and use their head.
Yeah.
But obviously, the standout candidate, I imagine, will be West Ham.
Yeah.
He's been there. He knows what the crack. I can imagine he'll be more than happy to go back on a free as well. So big deal if West Ham do that. I was chatting to my friend earlier. This is completely not going to happen. But since he's a free agent, I'll put it to him. Lingard to Leeds, and he goes, would never happen because it's Leeds. Obviously, United to Leeds, huge rivalry. But I go, would you take him? And he goes, absolutely. So I think it's going to be West Ham, but I'd like to see him go to a different club. Preferably not Leeds.
I personally like the move to Leeds more than I do West Ham at the moment. I think West Ham have kind of moved on from him. And for me, I think his best position is kind of as that second striker. I think, the way the three behind Antonio worked last year for West Ham, were brilliant. I thought Bowen had an amazing season. Your best mate, Rod, finally called up to the Lions team, the England national squad. But yeah, I like the Leeds one because I think to bolster their sort of attack, and I think he would be like one of the main guys in their team. I think if you could see him behind potentially someone like a Patrick Bamford or a Galhart, if he's given more time in the first team, I think that's a position where he could get a lot of goals from. I think at West Ham, I don't think he would be the focal point anymore, but when he was there, I think he showed that his best position is kind of as that sort of shadow striker, just, roaming around the box. And, he is kind of one of those players who he scores in the big moments, and he doesn't really score shit goals. He always scores these bangers, man. And for me, I think he's been a great servant to United. Whenever he's been asked upon, he's always tried his best. And I think, fans, talk about players who don't give their best. Giving your best should be, number one thing as a professional football player. As soon as you make it, you should be giving your best all the time. But it is a thing in which it doesn't seem to be like every single player is like that. And for Jesse, I think he's always given United 100%. And, we've had some great memories with him. I think of the FA Cup against Palace, the Pardew dance. But, it'd be sad to see him leave. But I think for United and for him, it's probably the best thing to happen. And I think this could happen a couple of years ago, Rod, and we kind of hindered him in a way, not letting him play because, I think he's a player who could get into the England squad, but because of the fact he hasn't been playing, it's very unlikely. And he'd have to, start next season in blistering form.
I agree. There's 100% a player in there. I was chatting to a good source I've got on in the West Ham.
Fabrizio Romano.
No, in the West Ham, no. And even though mainstream media are currently saying West Ham are leading, he's pretty certain that at the moment it's looking very unlikely. I mean, a big factor is wages. We know Lingard was on a decent sum at United. So he said it would take quite a bit for this situation to change for West Ham to get him. But, I mean, they're currently leading it. There's no other potential suitors at the moment. But if I did have to put a percentage on it of him going to West Ham, I'm probably 50-50.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. 50%. For me, I think it's interesting as well, because I don't actually think they need him. I think they could do with bolstering other positions. Is Rice going to stay? Is he going to go? Bringing in a player with, the money they could get back from Rice alone. Bowen potentially on the out as well. They could bring in some good money and put it elsewhere, but I'd probably go with a 50% as well, Rob, because I'm not too sure at the moment. But I'd definitely be, happy for Jesse wherever he goes, and hopefully he can get some first-time games. Rob, we're going to move on now to the mighty Aston Villa. You've done two amazing transfers in your eyes. Diego Carlos and Benjamin Kamara. Carlos from Sevilla and Benjamin Kamara from Olympique Marseille.
Benjamin Kamara?
Is it not Benjamin? What's his name?
Boubacar.
Sorry, my bad.
Man's called a French guy Benjamin.
Benjamin's a good name, though. I think think there is a Benjamin Kamara.
I thought you put your own Brexit twist onto it.
All right, yeah, no worries. But go on then, Rod. Start us. Where was Kamara from again? Was it Marseille?
I think, yeah, you're better versed on Kamara. You talked to me a few months ago about this, and I was on about the Rangers one. And probably I wasn't.
You was, but you didn't know.
I don't really know too much of Boubacar Kamara. I know he's one of the most highly rated defensive midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues. I know he performed astoundingly at Marseille, and I know he's got a lot of potential. But talk to me, Jack. What's he about?
I mean, from what I've seen and heard, he was linked with some of the most elite teams in Europe, and I just don't understand how he has slipped into your hands, because I think for you're probably going to get 1 to 2 really good seasons out of this player, and then you're going to get a massive sum for him. I was thinking he was linked with Bayern Munich a couple of years ago, and it was in the winter window last January. United were linked with him, and we was waiting on the final day. Are we going to go in for a CDM? It was talks about, are you going to go in for Zakaria or Kamara, because they were both open to free transfers. For me, I'm disappointed, Rob, because I think this is a man that a lot of Premier League clubs could have used. I think he's quite versatile in the midfield as well. I think you've got an absolute steal. I think he's 23, 24, right?
22.
22, that's nuts, right? A lot of good years out of him. And people are saying the Steven Gerrard pull. I don't even think it's that. I think it's the Aston Villa pull and the players that you've been bringing in and the quality of the squad. It's only getting better. For me, I absolutely love this deal, Rod. This is a done deal. Are you happy with it?
But one of the huge reasons he said of why he chose Aston Villa was Steven Gerrard and our sporting director. They came to his home in Marseille and they were chatting for a couple hours. I think he said, and Gerrard told him the project and he made him feel welcome, and he said that was why Aston Villa was the club for him. I think huge signing, especially when you hear the likes of Man United, Atletico Madrid wanted him. 22 years of age. If we don't progress heavily in the next couple of years, I think similar to what you just said, as long as he's playing well, I think we'll get a huge sum for him. But very exciting. We've needed a DM for a while now.
Yeah, you were saying this time last year, mate, that you needed a DM.
Yeah, we've needed one for a while. We wanted one in January. Basuma, Brighton wouldn't accept 30 million.
Yeah.
But we managed to obviously get Boubacar Kamara on a free 5-year contract. I'm really excited to see what he can do, and he's going to put he's going to be a big part of that spine.
Yeah, I think it's...
Hopefully we can just progress.
I think it's an amazing signing. I think now that you've got, Douglas Luiz, John McGinn in the midfield, you've got Jacob Ramsey, who's progressing at such, a high rate at the moment. And then you've got players like Marvelous Nakamba who can chip in and do a good job for you. I think the strength and, the... what is it called? Like the backup players, the strength in depth. It's just becoming insane at Villa now, and I'd be disappointed if you guys don't get into the top 7 next season. I'm going to be putting you up there in my predictions, Rod. But we'll move on to the other signing. Very happy with the Kamara one. You were, as was I. I think it's an amazing signing for Villa. I think this is a good signing, Rod, but I'm not as ecstatic as you are about it, because I've seen him play quite a few times, Diego Carlos, and I don't know. What's your opinion on him, first of all?
First of all, I've watched Mings for 3-4 years, and I've watched 5 mistakes at least a season. So even if it's 4 mistakes next year from Carlos, I'm happy.
It'll be more.
Basically, I know he's a shithouse. I know he's quick. He can play ball. He can play either left centre back or right centre back. And obviously he's a winner. I mean, he's been at Sevilla. He's won the Europa League. He knows what it takes to win things. He's 29 still, so obviously he's not the youngest of centre backs.
No, but he's got that.
He's a good age for a centre back. He's got that experience, and £26 million. I'm very happy. Sevilla wanted £50 million. Newcastle had a bid rejected of like 40-50 million euros in January. Obviously he's held out for the bigger club. I'm happy because whether it's Chambers and Carlos or Konza and Carlos, obviously Konza's out with a big injury at the moment, but we've needed a centre back, and to get one of this calibre, I'm ecstatic.
I think you need one more. In all honesty, I think you could do with.
We're after one more.
I think you could do with letting Mings go, because it's not going to look good, and I think it might be a bit of a thing if you strip him of the captaincy and just push him out of the squad. But I think if you could sell him and then give the captaincy to someone like, for me, I'd be giving it to John McGinn. I think, Diego Carlos for me is a player who could come into your teams. I think, he has got attributes where you're going to love him, like where he's going to be making blocks off the line and he's going to make last-ditch challenges. And like you said, he's got, great physical attributes. I think he probably lacks some places in the football IQ. I think that, if you're going up against him as a Premier League striker, you're going to be able to kind of get in his head at times. I think he's going to be that sort of guy who's going to be on yellow cards a lot of the times, and you're going to be going, please don't run at Carlos. But for me, I like the signing, Rod. I just don't know if I like it as like, if you were talking about Chambers and Carlos, I don't like that one for me. I like Konza and Carlos. But like I said, I think you need one more. But all in all, good signing. Like you said, he's 29, but I think it's a perfect age for him to come into the Premier League now, because he's obviously had all that experience outside of the Prem, and he's proven to be a decent defender. And like I said, we're gonna have to wait and see what sort of test. I would have preferred someone a bit more level-headed, I guess, as a centre half for you. But I mean, I guess for the fee you got him for, what was it?
I mean, £26 million. I think for me, it's about the going rate of just a player nowadays. I mean, you say level-headed. I've seen things where he's meant to be quite aggressive, things like that. But Konza got 2 red cards last year. Carlos got 2 red cards in over 100 games.
Yeah.
So it's obviously. I mean, we'll see. But I'm happy. If he was part of a Sevilla Europa League winning side, he's got to be half decent. And apparently, a highly rated Spanish journalist has come out and said that Carlos was the better of the two last year in terms of him versus Koundé. Except Chelsea are in for Koundé. So, I mean, I'm happy we finally, by the looks of it, got a decent defender. We've got a very good central defensive midfielder, and we need that spine. We've got good goalkeeper, good central defender, good CDM, and I'm happy with things. But obviously Watkins is something that. But you made a good point earlier about McGinn being given captaincy. If he doesn't give it Emi Martinez, which I think he might, I think McGinn is. I think you're right. I think he's next in line for it.
Personally,
because he's a great public speaker. Sorry, but footballing wise, to level up, I don't think he's all that.
Yeah, for me, like you kind of said, like for me, I prefer an outfielder. And personally, I like a midfielder as well because they're more and around the referee and they can, gob off at them a little bit more. But Rod, we move on to the last transfer. We've done the Villa ones, like you said, Carlos and Kamara. I think definitely, even if Carlos isn't the player I think he is, I think he definitely improves your squad overall. We move on to the last one, Rod, and this is my favourite done deal so far. I think it's gone under the radar. I think it's the perfect signing. I think they can manage his game time because of the depth they have in this position. We're going to be talking Perisic to Tottenham Hotspurs. I love this signing, Rod. I think he was brilliant last year. He had a great game in the Italian Cup final. I think he's a player, he's been looking at coming to the Premier League for quite a while now. United been linked with him year after year. I think in terms of that, left midfielder and a free back, he's absolutely perfect for Spurs. I think for me, Kulusevski is, more of a talent, but a lesser known name because of Perisic and what he's done for Croatia in the World Cup and the Euros previously. For me, I think he comes in, he strengthens the squad. I think Spurs have Sessegnon, who has really improved over the last few months in that position. I think Reguilon's kind of been off the pace and probably can look to move him on now. I love this signing, Rod. What do you think?
Make a very good point. I think Reguilon's he's been pushed into the bomb squad. I imagine they're going to be looking to get rid of him, which I'm very surprised about because when Conte came in, I thought Reguilon's his exact sort of player. I mean, I brought him in fantasy because I thought he was going to push on. He never managed to push on. Sessegnon's been looking great. Perisic, I don't really know too much about him. I know that he's 33 years of age. I know he's got a wealth of experience. And he's a very versatile player. He can play as a second striker. He can play an attacking role. He can play that wing-back role. And I think he has been brought in to play that wing-back role. He'll be sharing it with Sessegnon, which they need depth. They're going into, obviously, the Champions League, most prestigious European tournament. And by the looks of it, he's obviously reunited with Conte. It's a big signing for Spurs, and it shows the pull of Spurs, but in terms of player... Is he still all that? Because I know a few years ago he was brilliant, but I'm not too sure now.
Well, for me, when I've watched Inter Milan play and he's been playing, I think he's been brilliant. You got to remember they brought in Robin Gosens from Atalanta, the German who was playing in the German national side. You might remember his goal at the Euros, and he's kept him out the squad, to be honest, Rod. For Inter, letting him go on a free, I can understand it because, he wanted a bigger wage and, they can't really afford it at the club they are. They got Gosens now and, he's a brilliant player there. But, for Spurs to be able to bring him in on a fee, obviously the wages are going to be a bit higher. But for me, I think it's a brilliant sign-in. And I do think Spurs are going to have a cheeky season next year. I think they got such a good squad, and there's talks of Bastoni potentially leaving Inter Milan, and I think if he goes near this Spurs squad, I think you might have a new title contender on your hands because I rate Conte so highly.
Yeah.
And I think the business he's doing is like under the radar sort of good business. And for me, you know, a lot of people I saw online going, oh, you know, I think Perisic is a good player, but can he really handle the physicality of the Premier League at 34 or whatever he is now? I think it's bollocks, mate. I think he doesn't look like he's falling off at the moment. I'm not saying he's going to be here for 5 years doing everything, but, you know, for a season or two, 100%, this guy's going to be perfect for the Spurs side.
I mean, it's an interesting choice. Conte, sky's the limit for him. We know he tends to bust about 18 months of tenure. I think Spurs could have a big season next year. A couple more signings. I mean, if they do get Bastoni, you've got a defence of Bastoni, Romero, and potentially, I don't know, Dyer, Sanchez, whatever, one of them.
Yeah, because Romero was
a very solid team. Like, if you put man for man, they've got a very solid team.
Sneaky team, I'd call them, because everyone knows about Kane and Son, but it's the players around it which are going under the radar, and that's why for me, like, I was thinking about the predictions we're going to be doing for next year, and right now I think, you know, is there potential for a Liverpool fall off? I think there is. You know, is there potential for a Chelsea fall off? I think there is. If they're not going to improve the squad with all these players outgoing, I think there is. And I do think that Spurs could, you know, potentially get up into some sort of a title challenge. Whether they can stick it out or not, I'm not too sure at this moment in time. But I definitely think, like you said, they've got a squad which on paper is up there with any side in the Premier League right now.
Yeah, they've got a phenomenal squad, and the transfer window's not even open, which is crazy.
But it's the first episode, Rod, and that is it. Thank you for joining me, Rod. That was the last transfer. Perisic to Spurs. We've gone through, I think, 11 in total because we chucked in Jesse Lingard. Just over 50 minutes. Thank you. If you have watched the video all the way through, please leave a like, comment down below. Letting us know your percentages on the transfers, which we've done. Maybe I'll keep track of these and put them in a league table, and then if any of them happen, we can look at the percentage we had. But yeah, thank you for joining us for today's video. Be sure to check out some of the other content on the channel, our Premier League review and our Champions League final reaction, and we'll see you next week now, guys, with another video. And just take care of yourselves and be good people. I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace. Bye.